Today, I'd like to talk about the television industry in China. In Japan, television has long been considered a dying medium, but even so, getting a job at a TV station still comes with pretty good perks. This is probably because the television industry in Japan is in an oligopoly. In other words, since the number of channels is limited, there isn't excessive competition. As a result, even though the industry is declining, it's a slow decline, giving stations time to find ways to survive, such as starting to broadcast information on the internet or specializing in specific areas of expertise. There are other survival strategies, such as earning money through real estate rather than their core business. But this situation is unique to Japan. In the United States, where cable TV is widespread, the number of channels is vast, meaning competition is fierce, and TV station management needs to be highly innovative to survive. So, how is the situation in China? In China, there are also a huge number of TV stations. Those who have lived in China might know that the number of TV channels there is quite large. However, the content is very different from Japan. For example, there are channels that show billiards matches all the time or broadcast soccer matches without detailed commentary, just continuous coverage. Even an amateur can see that not much money is being spent on production. When I lived in China, which was during a time when the Chinese economy was said to be booming, I got the sense that not much money was being invested in creating content. That makes sense, considering that there are currently over 2,500 TV stations in China. Some might find this surprising, thinking that all the media in China, like TV and newspapers, are controlled by the Communist Party's propaganda department, and that everyone only watches what Beijing broadcasts. But surprisingly, there are many small local stations across China. The number of TV stations in China is actually rapidly declining. As of now, there are 2,522 stations, but in the past, there were even more. By the end of 2023, around 700 stations had been eliminated, leaving the current 2,522. It's predicted that 2,000 of these stations will go bankrupt. Signs of this have already appeared, with local stations canceling programs or merging multiple shows into one, leading to restructuring. Many of these small local stations either air programs made by other stations or produce their own. But since making original programs costs money, more stations are reducing their in-house production and airing content from other sources, leading to declining viewership. Local stations often produce local news programs, but their ratings are close to zero because Chinese TV news is just Communist Party propaganda. For example, they might report that a local Communist Party official visited somewhere or is working hard for the people. But with the living standards in China, especially in rural areas, rapidly declining, no one is interested in watching shows that claim the Communist Party is working for the people. The main TV network in China, CCTV, is also essentially a Communist Party propaganda machine that broadcasts nationwide through both terrestrial and satellite channels. But even CCTV's news programs have near zero viewership. The local station's primary role is to disseminate propaganda, but there is no demand for this anymore. However, since the Communist Party still values propaganda, the government provides subsidies to local stations. Nevertheless, with the internet becoming more widespread, fewer people are watching TV. There's something concerning related to Japan, though. As producing content is expensive, many Chinese stations are now airing anti-Japanese dramas. Around 8 out of 10 stations broadcast these. When I lived in Shanghai, these dramas were aired daily. The production teams for anti-Japanese dramas receive funding every year, so they mass-produce these shows. But after making so many, they start to ignore historical accuracy, and the content becomes increasingly absurd, to the point where viewers get bored. As a result, even anti-Japanese dramas are failing to attract viewers. With the rise of the internet, the overall viewership for Chinese TV is declining because the content just isn't interesting. Japanese TV stations, on the other hand, still work hard to attract viewers. Recently, I was researching the Japanese TV personality Kyoji Nohishi. He once said that the wealthy and intelligent don't watch TV, it's the poor and uneducated who do. This perspective seems to have influenced how TV stations in Japan produce their shows. In contrast, Chinese TV stations don't consider their audience when making content, which is why their ratings are so low. The stations aren't turning a profit, and with local governments struggling financially, subsidies are being reduced. As a result, some stations can't even pay salaries or social insurance. As mentioned earlier, 2,000 of the 2,522 stations are on the brink of bankruptcy, which could lead to tens of thousands of people losing their jobs, given that TV stations employ a large number of people. If these 2,000 stations close, tens of thousands could lose their jobs. Although it's been a prestigious job in the past, working at a TV station in China now means being paid less and often being employed as temporary staff. About 60% of Chinese TV station employees are now temporary workers. While the station executives, often linked to the Communist Party, still get good salaries, regular employees' wages have been halved. The situation for TV stations in China is deteriorating, but there are still people employed, for now. In conclusion, while TV stations in China are struggling to survive, it's possible that many will soon disappear, leading to significant unemployment across related industries. China's rapid economic shifts mean that jobs that were once prestigious can quickly become obsolete. That concludes today's discussion. See you next time.